I'm a yes. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
All right, Jeff is in.
Thank you.
I'm turning on the recording.
Okay.
I think I know to do that by now.
All right,
Good.
so we kicked off the meeting, voted to have Jeff join us remotely. And first up, we have points of pride. Neil?
Sure. I want to thank Kara for all the work she's doing, putting the town report together. The deadline is fast approaching, but we seem to be a little bit ahead of where we are sometimes. But by the end of the week, we'll probably be behind. Not because of Kara, but because of me, probably. And really just Dan is here. They've been out a lot and nights and weekends, and just thank them for the excellent job they do.
Yes, thank you, Dan, and all of DPW. We appreciate you, and sorry, it looks like there's more storms coming our way. Ken, do you have any points of pride?
Deb Norris and Mark Zankel are turning off the budget committee, so I just wanted to recognize both of them for the work they've done, and also wanted to recognize Don Houston from that committee, as well as Neil and several others that put together a summary sheet that shows on one page the different estimated tax rate impacts from from the school board, the select board, the precincts, and all the warrant articles on one page. So I think voters will have a lot more information and easily attainable than they've had in the past.
Mhm. All right. Next up, we have administrative. There is a question on the consent agenda that I think if we could hold off, I think we might need to discuss it in non-public possibly. Is it okay to hold off, Neil, Arena?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Okay, so then we will do approval of the public meeting minutes from January 27th, 2025.
Second.
All right, it's a roll call vote. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have approval of the non-public meeting minutes from January 27th, 2025.
I'll move and note they are not sealed.
And they were in the packet. Second.
All right, roll call vote. Stephen?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
Jeff?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, so that brings us to our first public appointment at 5:30 with Dave White regarding the pump station emergency repairs.
Well, no, Dave,
No, I don't think so.
is our
Hi.
wastewater superintendent.
And
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Thanks
to
for
meet
being
you.
with us.
helps me with following.
Thank you.
Brought my security guard with me. So basically within the year that I've been here, it's been a lot of discovery. Things that need to be fixed. And my biggest concern is the pump station downtown. I mean, I could dive into a whole bunch of things. The wastewater plant itself is in dire need of repairs as well. But the pump station actually handles all the septage and all the sewer from town. And that in itself, the cause of concern is if that fails, I really don't see any avenue that would easily be remedied. So at this point right now, there's a couple main concerns that I'd like to get addressed as soon as possible. Excuse me. Because in order to get beyond the relative repairs of the whole pump station, these couple of things need to be addressed ahead of time. One of them being the force main pipe. I put together a little bit of a PowerPoint slide presentation, so you guys will have some idea of what exactly I'm seeing. I'd be willing to bet that probably the four of you have never been down there other than in the park. And I'd be willing, anytime you guys want to go down, I'd be willing to take you all on a tour. Well, it would probably surprise you that, that pump station underneath that building, it goes down 4 floors.
Wow. Yeah. that's
Yeah,
crazy.
so, a lot of people don't, they just see the building and they think that, everything's crammed in there, and you open up the door and it looks like it because there's a generator in there and there's other electrical equipment and a diesel tank. But that being said, there's a lot of electrical stuff on the second floor and some more electrical components that run the pumps on the 3rd floor. And the 4th floor is the actual pump room where there's 2 pumps and some other equipment. So this picture that's up on the slide right now, this is on the 3rd floor, and that's a picture of the force main that goes out through the wall that carries the wastewater that comes into the pump station from the town. So that pipe right there is a 6-inch ductile iron pipe. And what you're looking at is the areas where there's no paint on this side, on the right-hand side of the pipe. I can't really explain why there's no paint on the top part of it. But as you go past that valve, what you're seeing is the wall seal has failed, and we're getting groundwater, and what it would appear to be wastewater or sewer is also coming in through the hole in the wall where it goes out through. We'll go to the next one. So what I'm proposing is, a 2-step plan to get us into a position where we have more time to thoroughly do a complete engineering overhaul and figure out the best plan of action for the whole pump station. The first one is to excavate and replace the degrading pipe that we just saw that goes out through the wall. There's also a valve box. Well, there's a valve in the ground about 2.5 feet away from the building. It's about 15 feet deep. And there's a nut that's supposed to be on the top of the bonnet of that valve. And you'll see this later on, but the nut has rotted off. So there's no way to control the force main. So if I have to do any work in the pump station, I'm looking at like 1.2 miles of 8-inch pipe holds approximately 16,000 gallons of wastewater. And the only way to get that out is to backfeed it into the wet well, which in turn would cause the wet well to surcharge, and basically every basement in town in that valley will flood. It's happened before where in the past, I've heard where the wet well hasn't been cleaned properly, and it's caused the lines to surcharge, and wastewater is backed up into a building downtown. So this again is more of the same. The force main pipe that's leading out through the wall. This is just to show you that the brown obviously is it's leaking in through the wall, but it's a lot of groundwater carrying iron that's coming through. That's primarily all sand from around the edge of the outside of the building that's leaking back in. This is a close-up shot of one of the sides of the flange. The cracks in what appears to be the cracks in the paint is actually where when the pumps come on, the septage, the sewer water is actually coming back through the pipe. It's not condensation. This is the top part of the flange, where right above where the line on the wall is, that bracket. Right above that, there's a crack in the flange itself right there, and there's another one on another location at another nut. So that right there is after I took a wire brush and found the fracture in the pipe itself. And this is one of the main concerns that I have is, you know, there's no way to tell how deep that fracture is. And there's no way to tell how long this pipe is going to hold. I'll be honest with you. I don't sleep at night thinking that this pump station's not it. If something happens in the middle of the night, there's no way anyone's going to be able to react fast enough. There's nothing you can do. It's going to flood the pump station. 16,000 gallons based on my calculation of the room sizes will fill the pump room, which is the 4th floor. It'll fill the 3rd floor, which you'll lose all your pump electrical controls, and it'll fill half of the 2nd floor, which is all the generator and power controls for the rest of the building. This is a picture of the flange that actually braces that into the wall. That's another one. There's the crack that's in the top part of the flange on the wall side. And when the pump comes on and shuts off, it sprays right out of there. So the round thing on the ground, that is a valve box, or that's where the valve control is for the one valve that I have that controls the force main pipe, where the nut is actually rotted off, and I have absolutely no way to move it. As far as I can tell, digging back and calling other people that have worked there, no one has ever moved that valve in 40 years. I mean, I can definitively say that no one has touched that in 15 years. And I would be scared that even if I was able to get it to move, if I was able to close that, I would not be able to get it to open. And that being said, I mean, there's no backup, no control over, you know, I have no way to safely do any work in the building.
Just with the valves up at the treatment plant itself, we had long bars on these valves that have not been exercised in who knows how long. And I was in the hole with those bars and you could barely move valves. To the point where we stopped doing it because I was afraid if we break the valve, now you have to replace it.
So that's a picture of ideally what I believe is down there. And when I say the nut on the top of the bonnet, the square thing on the top that's the nut. And I ran a camera down that pipe, and from what I can tell, that nut is laying sideways next to the top of the bonnet, and all I see is the stem. So phase 2 of this project is to either repair or replace pump number 2, the pump side of it. The pump seals have failed, so every time that comes on, wastewater leaks out around the pump seals. There's a whole bunch of other obsolete equipment that's still attached to the walls down there that needs to come out, that's not connected. And you know, it's my belief that if we do this in this manner, these 2 repairs they'll buy us enough time that, you know, we can do a proper engineering, you know, study, at least have someone come in and go through it and find out exactly what we need to do for either upgrades or replacement. My recommendation is basically going to be to replace the whole thing. I mean, it's been said that every piece of equipment in that facility is beyond its useful life. So,
Dave, would you mean replacing it at the same location, right next door to it, or?
it wouldn't really make sense with all the piping work that's been done coming with there's a gravity line that comes under the river into there. And, you know, you basically have the pump station set at the lowest spot possible.
Mm-hmm.
So without adding any more piping and trying to divert stuff away from that area, logically, it would make sense to put another one right there. So, but my proposal for another pump station would be considered, the type that I'm looking at would be considerably cheaper than having to rebuild another building in the style that's there, and it would be more accessible. It would basically be mounted ground level, and you know, you wouldn't have the building there, but there's other avenues that have to be addressed. You know, where we're located within the shoreline protection area and stuff like that. You know, I'm going to be able to get these two things done right here, based on an emergency. You know, this is something that has to happen. I honestly feel that, you know, the way the pump station sits now, it's not a matter of if it will fail. It's going to happen, and until this gets fixed, I can't comfortably have anybody else do any other work in there.
How much time would it buy us after we did these two, phase 1 and phase 2, do you think?
I can't put a number on that, a timeline on that. If I had to guess, I would say that this is going to buy us a considerable amount of time to, I mean, engineering processes usually take a year and a half. I mean, this isn't a one and done type of deal.
Yeah.
But these two things will, I want to say it will buy us enough time to have it properly engineered, evaluated, and have them come in and you know, we can pursue other proposals, you know, as maybe there's different setups, something that might be less expensive but more applicable.
But I guess, I mean, I know that it's hard to put a finite number on it, but are we talking about more than a year, more than 5 years? And is there sort of,
I wouldn't say more than 5 years, definitely not.
Okay.
The other issue I have with the pump station is safety. Someone has to go down on the wet side,
Yeah.
and clean that bar rack that's down there. That's 24 feet down, straight down an aluminum ladder attached to a cement wall, which
Wow.
is a confined space. And, you know, it's a struggle to find people that aren't busy, you know, during the course of the day. You know, we all have jobs that we're doing, and
That's right.
yeah. So that being said, that's a safety issue. And then on top of that, I mean, the dry side being in the building, that doesn't consist of any regulations that would make that a confined space. It is designed for work on all 4 floors. But the problem is that in order to get down into the other floors, you have to climb down through a hatch, climb down through a ladder, you know, and I mean, since I've been here, this is my 3 days a week. And, you know, I think the reason why we've got to where we are now, and I can't really speak for what other people have done in the past. I know what I'm doing while I'm here, but I will tell you that it undoubtedly entertains, the design of this place entertains the laziness of other people. I mean, I walk in the door and I'll just shake my head. I'm like, all right, well, let's go. We're going to go down 3 flights, 3 ladders, you know, it is what it is. I'll do whatever I got to do, but I'm not, it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
You know, so.
We do have money planned in the CIP to do major changes there in the next few years. So it has been
I
planned.
have it on.
So
Do we have a quote
So-
for doing phase 1 and phase 2?
Yeah, roughly it's going to be, together combined, it should be right around about 121,000.
and we do have a balance of 148,000 consistently in the CIP through the years under the current plan. So we do have the funds to do that.
Jeff, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, my question is more of a practical one. Dave, how long would this repair take? And what happens to people on the system while we're doing the repair?
The repair shouldn't take any more than a couple days. And there should be no interruption in service.
I'm not sure how that's possible unless everybody stops flushing the toilets.
They have pumping trucks pumping into their back trucks and then bringing it up to the treatment facility and dumping it in. As they're doing the work.
Thanks.
Do you have concerns that things are so bad that if you start like tinkering with a few
Yeah.
valves, that everything's just okay?
Yeah.
So, what's the concern level in terms of doing this as like a stopgap?
Okay, well, you saw what the inside of that, what the pipe looked like on the inside of the building.
Mhm.
And that's just from, I mean, that's in a controlled environment, so to speak, in the building. If that looks that deteriorated, my worry is that we start digging in the park and we have to keep going back and back and back to find good pipe to put this insertion valve in. So, but the upside of that is if we don't have to go too far, putting this insertion valve in is going to allow us to have control over that force main where if the pipe isn't that bad, we can reline it. And nowadays, I mean, to have a pipe relined, you're looking, in theory, putting ductile iron pipe in the ground, everyone says, oh, they lost 100 years. That's 40 years old. I mean, and you know, the other part of this is you're also looking at, I'm sure, and I say this is an assumption on my part, but I'm sure that infrastructure was built with the lowest bidder, and he got the best prices he could on whatever materials he could get when he could get it. I don't believe that the integrity of that pipe is probably not as good as the stuff that's out now. I mean, there are things in this, you know, in the world now that you wouldn't want to buy today that you would have bought 40 years ago.
Mhm.
But, you know, this is one of the things that, you know, I don't know, just the condition of the pipe in the building makes me worry about what's out in the park. And,
Mhm.
and it's been expressed that, you know, we start digging in the park and we start moving earth around, you know, how's the pipe going to react to that? And, you know, but I honestly, I don't think we have a choice.
So we do this and cross our fingers that nothing bad happens, basically.
Yeah, I mean, the contingent is that the people that will be doing the work, this is what they do for a living.
Okay.
And, you know, they also build wastewater treatment plants. You know, they know what they're doing. And I mean, I put all my, I don't want to say I put all my eggs in one basket because nowadays eggs are too expensive. But I have a lot of faith in these guys, and you know, I mean, they'll start doing their job. If they have any doubts, they'll stop.
Yeah, okay.
How quickly can they do this work? Any sense of their availability?
By the end of the month.
Okay.
So I guess this is at the point where I'm asking for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to be seeking approval for a small bond for cameraing in the pipes in the system.
Mhm.
Would that have any benefit for what you're talking about, or is that totally separate?
Absolutely. It's a separate, that's something that I'm trying to plan on getting done before the end of summer. Anticipating that being approved. I already have Belmore. They have all the equipment, and just as soon as I find out that that's approved, to have the system cleaned and cambered, that the whole system, you know, that'll give us an idea of what the rest of the infrastructure in town looks like.
But that's
That's
physically
separate from this.
That's what I
Yeah.
was getting at.
Yeah, and well, the other part of it is the force main, it's always full. The 1.2 miles of force main until it breaks to gravity, which is, I believe, behind the Maple Street School somewhere in that easement. That pipe is always full, and you can't run you can run a camera through a full pipe, but you just can't see anything. So, and with this work being done, putting in a bypass, it would give us the opportunity to you know, I can drain that pipe back into, you know, a facility, a frac tank or a bar or a truck or something. And, you know, we can go forward with that and be able to inspect that pipe as well.
Oh, okay, good.
So.
So I guess what we're looking for is approval to spend up to $125,000 on out of the sludge removal and sewer equipment capital reserve fund.
Can I ask a couple more questions? I'm generally all there. I just wanted, most of my questions already got asked. Kind of just the function of the system.
We haven't got to the question part yet, if you want to keep that with.
So the sewage comes into the wet well and then goes into a pump and then through the force main, or is?
Yes,
So-
exactly.
So that pipe that's inside the building is post pump.
Yes,
Okay, and so where's the pump located?
the next floor down.
The next floor down, okay. Oh, so that's coming. So
So this is the phase 2 part where,
this is fourth floor.
yeah, this is the
Okay.
pump room. So that's the connection between the pump and the motor above. And you can actually put your hand on that shaft and wiggle that top
Yeah.
part. So the bearing in the motor above is going. And
Got
the seal below that on that pump is going.
So if you went to the picture of the coming through the wall, the force main,
Yeah, that was the first pictures that were up there.
right? So is that going? That's going
It's going out of the building.
out of the building, from the pump out of the building. Okay,
Yep.
got it. Great. What's like the? I'm just more curious. What's the pressure going from there up?
One of the things that I didn't calculate, it's from the pump station all the way to the plant, you're looking at 107 feet of total dynamic head.
So a good amount.
Yeah, so it's probably like 100, I want to say about 140 PSI.
Okay.
But keep in mind that, you know, that's an 8-inch pipe coming, reduced down, coming, if you come backwards into the building, into a 6-inch pipe, and it's not going to take long with a 6-inch opening to let.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you know, when those pumps stop, there's check valves in there that hold that sewer and that. So, you know, they're holding 107 feet of TDH.
Yeah.
So,
And then, so the wet well, is that concrete or is that steel?
yeah, no, it's
Okay.
2 concrete tanks that are, there's one with a base in it, and then there's another cylinder and another cylinder and then another cylinder.
Do we have any idea what the condition of those is in?
The structures themselves are good.
Okay.
You know, the structures are fine.
And then, so once you start excavating, if you start hitting issues, do you know like what the furthest back you might have to go is?
I have no idea, because the plans that I have, so rooting around in the garage at the wastewater plant, I've come across 3 different sets of plans for this.
Okay.
Yeah, and the first set of plans shows the pipe goes out of the building and does a 45, which makes sense because you want to bring it up closer to grade.
Yeah.
And then there's another 45, and then the valve. Well, that plan is wrong because the pipe goes out of the building and about 2.5 feet out, there's the valve. And if you measure the distance between there and the 3rd floor, you're looking at, I measured in that hole where the valve control is to the top of the bonnet was 14 feet 2 inches. If you go in the building and you measure from the ground level down, that's 15 feet. Well, that 15 feet would get me at the center of the valve.
Right.
Center of pipe. So that brings me back to the plans, the other set of plans that I have, which shows the pipe coming out of the building and a 45 going sideways, which also makes sense. Because now they want to try to keep the pipe, and I'm only guessing what these people were doing back 40 years ago.
Yeah.
They want to keep the pipe in the same trench.
Yeah.
Where the other pipes are. But the problem with that is there's a huge transformer right there now. So I don't know if that pipe goes all the way to the transformer or under it. And then the third set of plans, which probably no one wants to hear right now, is the pipe comes out and goes 45 the other direction, which sends it right under the gazebo.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No.
So if it goes south in terms of pipe condition, we're digging up a transformer or a gazebo.
Well, in that scenario, I don't know if you're laughing or crying.
Yes.
You're not the only one. Believe me, I don't want to be sitting here either. So that being said, that's where, you know, the guys that are gonna do this job. We can go back as far as we need to. You know, if we have to abandon pipe to find good pipe, they're not gonna keep digging in the same spot, just opening up a trench a mile long.
Is that a possibility to go to just do a new trench to a known good spot and just abandon all that's down there?
They can,
Okay.
if they have to, they will.
Okay,
The problem is we're not gonna know where there's a known good spot.
right.
Right. And if we go too far, then we're taking a hard, if you're standing at that building, we're taking a hard left and heading right to a state road. And that'll stop, we'll end up stopping right then and there.
Do you have any idea of what the cost per day for the pumping trucks is gonna be?
I do. It was. It's $350 an hour for the truck and the driver. And then it's $180 more an hour for after 7 PM and before 7 AM.
Sorry, $180 more?
Yep.
What's the capacity of the wet wells?
The capacity of the wet well.
Yeah.
Where it sits right now, where the pumps come on and off, you're looking at about 59 inches. So probably 10,000 gallons. If I had to guess.
And do you know what the daily intake is?
I have no way to measure the daily flows.
Yeah, okay.
Which is another problem that I have at the wastewater plant. So I can only tell you what I discharge, and I'm averaging, depending on the weather, I'm averaging between 35,000 gallons a day or 50,000 gallons a day. So when it rains out, there's a surcharge. This is the whole cammering and cleaning. So when it rains out, I get a surcharge, and it takes about 4 days for the plant to come back around.
So there's not really an option to drain the wet well and leave it overnight?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I wish there was. I wish there was. I mean,
Super helpful.
the whole idea behind this project is, without having to get engineers and making this more expensive, the guys the construction company that I'm working with, Sherburne Consolidated Inc. out of Amesbury, Mass. You know, they're not outside the box of, so they want to bring in a frac tank. Of course, the bigger the frac tank, the more expensive it is. You're looking at probably a 20,000 gallon tank. You're looking at $25,000 for a week. And he's tried to shave it down. So we're only going to need it for 2 days.
Yeah.
So, and then the scheduled septic haulers will haul from that tank. The reason we have to do it that way is because the wet well is too deep. It's 24 feet down to the platform that I work on.
Yeah. Can't suck it up.
And it's another 5 feet below that is where the top of the wastewater sits. So you have to put a submersible pump down in the wet well and pump up to it. It's too deep to suck it out. So, hopefully, like I said, the insertion valve and the force main, the new pipe going out of the building, that'll mitigate the leaks that are coming in. And it will be able to dry out the pump room where they can go down there and safely do the work on the pump. But let me remind you that, these two things, the force main, the repair will be permanent. That'll be a fix. The pump will be a temporary Band-Aid. Either we fix it or replace it. At this point, it's just to get us, it's just to buy us time.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
This picture right here is the base of the actual pump itself. And that's when it's running and the wastewater is just leaking out in between and that's the base of the pump where it's all covered in, whatever you want to imagine and that's when it turned on and scared the daylights out of me. That's why it's blurry. I was trying to take a picture of it and I'm like, whoa. So this is ideally what it would be replaced with if we went with a new replacement. And the reason I say replacement, I'm not asking for a wish list. It's, the pumps that are down there, I mean, electric motors are electric motors. We can do whatever you want with electric motors, but the pumps were built more than 40 years ago. They're by a company that used to build farm equipment, Alice Chalmers. I don't know if everyone I've talked to, we can't get parts for those. They just don't make them. So. And so this is my goal, is that these 2 emergency repairs will hopefully buy us the time to complete for, an upgrade and allow for grant research and alternative funding. So, I mean, I'm not looking at 5 years, but.
Is 125,000, as Neil mentioned, do you think that's sufficient to do phase 1 and phase 2?
Yeah, I think that's a very,
Change back to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And based on your memo, you've reached out to a number of different companies to do this work.
Yeah, for lack of a better way of answering that, just to keep it in the scope of, to get 3 quotes, it's I'm not one of the people that, I'm not an advocate for going after quotes. I hate wasting contractors' times. And, I understand it, the reason behind it. But the people that I'm asking to come do work for me in this town are people that I've had previous experience with at another location that I worked in. These guys, this is what they do for a living. I mean, I did reach out to a local contractor, a couple of them. One of them just refused to answer me back. The other one was a little hesitant and doesn't like the idea of doing the work. And he's rather busy anyway. Sherburne, the company that I mentioned earlier, was the first people that I reached out to, because those are the people I used when I used to work in another town. And, they've always done top-notch work. And like I said, I mean, these are the people that you'll find, like Penta Corporation, who oversees large construction sites with, multiple things going on. They call these people, for those type of jobs.
And you indicated they'd be available within the month to do this.
Yeah, they'd like to put the bucket on their hoe in the ground.
They prefer to.
Can you do it now?
They want to do, they actually want to do it in a couple of weeks. He's hoping to start the end of the month.
Okay.
The other issue, when you're going down that deep, you're gonna have groundwater coming in. The colder it is, the less groundwater you're gonna have to.
Mhm.
That deep hole.
Yeah.
I mean, to excavate that, we're talking, the pipe itself, the valve itself at the edge of the building is 15 feet.
Mhm.
So, we're talking, they're gonna need shoring, trench boxes. I mean, it's not a small project by no means, but it's not overly huge. And if we can take care of it now, like I said, the force main it's not a repair. This is a replacement. This is gonna fix this part of it without knowing the status of the rest of it. But
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
I would move to grant the request for phase 1 and phase 2 up to the amount of 125,000. What was the fund?
It's the sludge removal sewer equipment capital reserve.
From the fund that Neil just read out.
I'll second.
Okay.
Should we think about increasing it in case they need extra days of pumping time? That's $10,000 a day. So we're limiting it to.
I just said 125 because that's what they said would be an adequate amount.
I think
Where would what happens? You said we had 100 and.
Got 148.
I'm all for it. My biggest concern is if they have to
Yeah, I
like
was thinking
move a
that too.
transformer. And then we need at least a day for someone to do that, and then we don't have the money. And then we have to like figure out how to do that real quick. I'd rather just make sure we can do it.
Do you have another number?
I mean, I
Where
want,
are we pulling from
that's the question.
if we run out of the,
We've got the 148.
We have 148.
Yeah.
Well, we
So you can go
will,
up to-
assuming it's approved at town meeting. We're appropriating 200,000 as part of the warrant for this town meeting. If I understand,
Well, what's in the CIP fund now?
Right, but
70.
we've got generator money we could hold off on if it doesn't pass, and there's other things coming out of there.
What are we revisiting this if something like explodes and we're looking at something a lot more than $120,000?
May have to have an emergency meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, we'll know.
yeah.
At least those of you that live in Kentucky Village.
I share this concern, Thomas. I just don't know.
So worst case scenario, let's say it does go terribly south. Well, because we have to buy the pump, because if we're gonna do them all at the same time, we have to already have the pump on hand. So we
No,
have to
no,
avoid
the pump itself will be done separately.
separately. So we could say, let's allocate the funds for phase 1 and 2. If phase 1 is going horribly south, we have at least 50K that we could use because that's been allocated for the pump.
That's true.
And then we can figure out how to pay for the pump. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once the work starts, it has to be completed.
Yeah, so there's like 45K of
Yeah.
extra money that would be available in case it goes south, and then we'd have to just figure out how to cover the pump.
Then we'll do
Because
figure out.
the pump's not gonna happen at the same time?
No,
Okay, then I
no,
think,
they want to mitigate the leaks that's coming in the building.
yeah, and then we
Because
deal with it.
no one wants to stand in 2 or 3 inches of sewer water, well, other than me. I do the job. I mean, just so you know that in the event, and I'll give you the worst case scenario, in the event that something happens before this project starts, if that pump station was to flood, that line was to fail, I mean, I already alluded to, the first 3 floors of that building are gonna be full, and everything in it is gonna be garbage. And for the most part, everything in it is already wore out, so it's gonna need to be replaced anyway. But in the meantime, that's not even the major concern. The major concern is that once that happens, the wet well is gonna surcharge that sewer line, and everything in the valley is gonna back up. And I mean, I know it's not a huge, a huge problem as far as the number of people, because, you know, unlike the water system, I only have 222 users. But, you know, I mean, Riverside Pizza is gonna start flooding.
Gonna be a
all
big
the-
deal for those people.
Yeah,
Everybody, well, it's primarily, that's the business district, you know,
yeah, we don't want that to happen.
so, and then it's just gonna spread, it's just gonna keep backing up, because, you know, no one will stop flushing the toilet.
Jeff, you with us? Okay, we have a motion and a second,
Great.
so we'll vote.
Sorry, I
Steven?
am with you.
Jeff, we're voting on the motion to approve this. Would you like to
Yes,
vote?
my answer is yes.
You're a
Yes,
yes,
my
okay.
answer is
Ken?
yes.
Okay, I'm a yes, and Thomas?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. I think I've said to all of you, and I think Dan and I agree, he always brings bad news, but I've learned more about the system in the last year, and we're dealing with this rather than not knowing what's going on.
Yeah,
Well, the good news is what the town had for 40 years has lasted this long. The bad news is that it's at its end of its life, and so,
yeah.
but thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, appreciate it. Okay. So we now have one public hearing on 3 bonds. The transfer station lagoon closing, wastewater treatment facility sludge removal, wastewater infrastructure assessment.
All right. So this is the bond hearings for the 3 bonds. we figured we'd just keep talking about sludge and septage and
Yes.
everything else.
Amen.
So, there are basically three bond hearings. The first is on the transfer station lagoon cleanup. The second one is on the sludge removal from the wastewater treatment system. And the third is the wastewater infrastructure condition assessment, which is the hammering that Ken referenced. We'll start with the transfer station lagoon cleanup. So, try to do this. This is the transfer station, just so everybody knows. And then these are the 5 lagoons over here where septage has gone. So Pennacook Road, transfer station, and if you keep going around, and then the community well is over here. So basically for decades, septage was brought to these 5 lagoons. They were rotated through the years. And this is the haulers that people get to come to their houses to pump their tanks. And this is where it went. This was pretty common practice. It was a permitted activity. And then during the permitting renewal process in 2021, it became clear that, it just couldn't continue. It would cost way too much to renew the permit. And as it turns out, all of these facilities are being closed anyways. So at that point, the facility stopped accepting septage and plans began for the closure. New Hampshire DES, working with the town, tested the sludge. And of course, like most sludge, it was found to have PFAS chemicals in it. So there were 3 alternatives brought forward. The first one is excavation and beneficial reuse. What would have happened prior to PFAS is all of this would have been mixed together and spread on fields. I remember 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years ago, this was a big thing. Sludge was being spread on fields. There were lots of meetings that brought out lots of people debating whether this was a good thing or not. The second option is excavation and disposing off-site, which had a almost $14 million cost to it. The only place taking this type of material now with the PFAS in it is Canada, and I'm not even sure. There's probably a tax on it now. And then the third is closure as a monofill, which is basically a landfill that gets capped, and the total cost for this is at the $4,015,000 with contingencies. So let's talk about the closure as a monofill plan. This was developed by Nobis Engineering. This sits right next to our landfill, and Nobis for years has managed the closure of the landfill and then all the monitoring. So they've been the engineers working on this site for decades, really. And then we've worked closely with New Hampshire DES during the development of the plan. So it's 5 phases. This is a little closer. We'll go a little, I don't know how well you can see this. This would be phase 1. So basically, how it works is sludge would be dug out of this area, and the wet sludge will go here and drain into this holding bin here. The dry sludge will go up here. And then it will be allowed to sort of do what it does. And then it gets put actually back into this area. And what happens is there's, in that hole, there's stone and the geotextile and sand on top. And then the sludge and all of this is put in on top of that. As you can see, there's phase 2, 3, 4, and 5. Part of phase 5 will be taking this and completing that, and that will be part of phase 5. And then the cap is put on top of that, which will have a mound. These are the contour lines. here, so it will build up and it will be a mounded area. So why do this now? Clearly the lagoons are not eligible to be reopened or used. We do have a contract with Allenstown because we have to have a contract with somebody for this sludge to go. I think most contractors who pick up now go to Concord. Currently, it's contributing to the groundwater contamination in the area. There is this septage can leach. We've been awarded a low interest loan through New Hampshire DES, and 401,000 of that is forgivable. All similar lagoons in the state are being closed. Cost to do this will likely keep rising. And it also saves us substantially in the sludge removal, which we'll talk about next, at the wastewater treatment facility, because instead of having to pay to ship it away, it can go over there. So the two projects can help each other. So the low interest loan is from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Basically, when construction starts, we submit invoices as they come in. We're reimbursed for those. And during construction, there's a 1% construction loan. No bond counsel is required. And then it converts at the end of construction to the regular loan, and that's when the 401,000 is forgiven. This was a grant that we submitted, and only 12% of the requested funds were actually awarded in 2025. All similar facilities in the state must close between 2025 and 2033, and there are 13 of those facilities. So if we don't take the money now, the likelihood of getting it certainly goes down, as well as if we refuse it, it doesn't rate us as high in the future. Construction costs will most likely continue to rise, and with more towns competing for contractors, they could rise even more. So we're overdue for the removal of the sludge from the wastewater treatment facility, and being able to put the sludge in the landfill saves potentially millions of dollars that it would cost to ship it off. What happens if we do nothing? We'll contribute to the risk, the environmental risks. We technically would be going against a DS ruling, which is punishable for $25,000 a day. We would lose our low interest loan in principal. And if we know there's an issue and we've done nothing, then we're risking civil action if there's a problem. Timeline and budget. Construction would begin in 2025 and continue through 2026. The total cost of the project is the $4,015,000. The interest rate, as I said, is 1% during construction. Webster pays 25% of all lagoon closing costs. We cover all the sludge that comes from the wastewater treatment facility. The loan is planned to be a 20-year loan, although I noted in here we've received a letter from Webster that they're interested in discussing the possibility of a 10-year loan. So I think there'll be more discussion on that. I didn't have time to change everything in my presentation, though. The first year payment, and this is assuming the 20-year, because that's what was in here. The first year payment for the long-term loan is estimated to be $291,722. And if this is the way we go, 25% of that is the $72,931. This is a breakout of the costs, which you can see. Sorry, I hit the stop share when I tried to. All right, where'd it go? Is it? Oh, I see. There it is. Sorry. So this is kind of a breakdown, and this is the, over on this side is the cost of what it would affect of $450,000 home. The first year starts at a cost of $70.68 down to 45. So about 1158, assuming the tax rate stays the same through those years. The assessed property does. Are there questions? That's the first one. Are there questions on that one? Let's come to the.
Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. I just had a question about the security of the grant money. Is there a possibility with everything going on in the state that we approve this and then maybe that runs into a hiccup? So I was curious if there's any current information on that. Thank you.
We've been told it is secure because this is money coming from the state Clean Water Revolving Fund and doesn't rely on other funds. It's towns that are already paying money back. So that's what our understanding is at this time, but we'll keep confirming that.
Permission to speak when your residents are done.
This is the chair of the Webster Select Board.
You want to come on up?
Do you want me up there for a discussion, or do you just want me to ask a couple questions?
Well, why don't you start with your questions?
Sure. So I'll start with, you mentioned that this may save millions of dollars towards the next warrant article in this. How is that to be seen for interdepartmental revenues and things of that nature, since this is something that we would also be funding because it's going into the transfer station?
So it seems like when we go from, we'll have to take that amount out of the construction loan, but when we go from the construction loan to the other loan, that share of the wastewater treatment wouldn't be included in that amount. That would be separate.
Okay, so I'd be interested in seeing the kind of the details of how we're going to look at doing that.
Sure.
I'll skip those because that's about your septage and, or sorry, your sludge. The first point that I'll make is looking at your warrants for this. It did note that it's Article 3, it's titled bond issue for the transfer station lagoon closure, and then mentions bonds and notes, whereas this is a loan. So my only maybe it's the right wording, but make sure that you have the right wording since it's a DES loan instead, that will be partially forgiven. And then basically, I just want to pitch the 10-year versus 20-year. There was a letter that was written by Dana.
They all have them.
Hopefully you've seen. And I don't know whether there's been time to get a response from DES or not, whether they would be open to a portion as 10-year, a portion as 20-year or not. But I wanted to give you a couple figures just to help you think about that. And one of the reasons that, and the reasons why we decided as Webster that unanimously everybody in the room during our budget hearing and the whole board wants a 10-year instead of 20. The first thing to consider is that if you're going for the 20-year loan, the difference between the 10 and 20-year loan, which is 2% or 3.072%, both of which are ridiculously low right now, so that's awesome. But that difference is over $750,000.
But that's the difference in the loan rate?
In the amount that you pay.
But not the loan rate. The loan rate is the same.
The loan rate is 2% for 10 years, or
That's right.
3.072% for the 20 years.
So the loan rate does change?
The loan rate is a full percentage higher. and more. So you end up paying $768,192 more to do a 20-year loan than a 10-year loan. The second part that's really interesting here is because of the precise amounts of the percentages. A 3.072%, while a low percentage loan today, has not been a low percentage rate over the years. It is also still above target inflations. Now, granted, we can assume that probably inflation is going to keep going up for a year or two, but over 20 years, that's probably not going to happen. And we know that it's always been stated that the target inflation for the country is 2.5% underneath that. So you're almost guaranteeing that you're going to be paying more because of less inflation later on. Whereas the 2%, not only is it way below what inflation is today, it's also below the targets for inflation. So as money devalues, it actually is even better. So we're basically guaranteeing that the money that we get and the interest that we pay on it is free by keeping to the 10 years because you're staying under that inflation amount. So when you put that together along with $750,000 less, that's why we think the 10 years absolutely makes sense and is something that we would be striving to definitely root for. That's my comments and kind of the questions. Please feel free if you have any others, I'm happy to respond and anything else.
Thank you.
The presentation said the loan rate was 1%.
What was that?
You had the 1% on the loan rate?
During construction.
Yeah.
During construction, before it converts.
Okay, and then the rates are,
Then the rates are 2 and 3. Yeah,
2%, and then,
right.
2 point,
Yeah, it's 2% on the 10-year and 3.072% on the
2.072.
the first 2 years of 1% for construction.
The letter requests a joint meeting, so that probably makes sense to hash that all out. Technically, you're not that. Well, I do it both ways. Yeah. And that would be confirmed when it converts. So there would always be time to change that if the interest rates for some reason were slightly different or something. Any other questions on the first bond?
Neil, I just want to make sure you're saying that the language we have now in for warrant article 3, it does not bind us to 20 years.
No, the language does not include any.
It's just in the scenarios that have been provided in the projected impact on tax rates going forward is based on 20.
That's correct. So you want to probably sort of work on, have this finalized by town meeting to be able to present what the estimates would be. All right.
And so in a year or two, the select board at that point would have to decide whether to go with 10 or 20.
Yes, although generally you try to make that early enough to be able to present what the estimated cost will be when the bond is presented. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Number 2, wastewater treatment facility sludge removal. All right, so this is the field at Maple Street School. This is the DPW garage, and this is the wastewater treatment facility, which is right here. This goes out to Maple Street, and this is HMC right here, to give you a perspective if you didn't know where that was. So basically, it's been about 22 years since we've removed sludge. It really should be removed. It was every probably 10 to 20 at the most. This had been planned for in the CIP, but prior to PFAS, because there's also PFAS here, that definitely changed how it was dealt with. The money had been put in to do this, was about a $200,000 estimated cost at that point. If the transfer station lagoon closing moves forward, this sludge can go there. It's the cost is about $712,000. If not, it would have to be hauled off and paid for disposal somewhere else. So the sludge would be removed and then transported to the transfer station as part of what we just saw. The total cost is $712,000. This loan is planned for a 10-year loan. The first payment is in 2026, is estimated at $99,680, and we've used a 4% interest rate for estimating this one. There again is the cost for a $500,000 house. Must have done this later than the last one. It's estimated to be $35.72 the first year, a total of $311 for all 10 years. Are there questions on this one?
One from 86 Maple Street. After this is removed, would it be anticipated that future sludge removal will still contain PFAS? That's pretty standard at this point.
Unless it's removed from products, it's pretty clear. But by the time it's done next time, maybe there'll be different ways to deal with it. There's going to have to be something done differently. Other questions on sludge removal? Not, we'll go to the third one, which is the wastewater infrastructure condition assessment, which is largely the cammering. All the sewer pipes will be cambered. I made up that word, to determine their shape and to determine if stormwater is being brought in. As Dave said, his flows go up substantially when it rains, and we really don't know why and where that's coming from. So somewhere in there, stormwater is in there. It's important to know that to help determine future capacity. And if we have extra capacity, then you don't have to expand to meet whatever is happening or in the future to know when you would have to expand. Cost is estimated at $120,000, and we received a low interest loan here. Also, the low interest loan and the forgiveness is $100,000. So really we're borrowing $20,000. DS requires us to treat this like a bond. It is a bond over $100,000. So we go through this same process. So the total project cost is $120,000. The loan would be a 5-year loan. The first year payment in 2026 is $4,410. This is the 2.05% interest rate used as the estimate. And this would cost a $500 house the first year, $1.58, and a total of $7.61 over, because we're really only borrowing $20,000. And we are presently doing asset management of both stormwater and the wastewater under a grant from DES. We received a $30,000 grant for each. So that is happening too, and this will work in conjunction with that. Questions on this one?
Just a quick comment. Someone said they were trying to get on the Zoom and it wasn't working, but I believe it is because Jeff's on, right?
Yes, and actually this is Zoom and I'm seeing the PowerPoint. So
It's working.
Hopefully.
yeah. Any questions on that one? And I think that concludes our 3 hearings.
That was super helpful, Neil.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Neil.
And who put this together?
Oh. We put
So
this
handy.
together.
This is on the transfer station.
You calculating stuff?
Seems weird.
So this is a pamphlet we'll make available now and then at the budget hearing and town meeting. And a similar frequently asked question is available online. There is even, so I think the first time we've officially used it, a QR code on the back, which will take you to the webpage in there. The budget and the costs are based on the 20-year, because that's what we had put in there. So we would change that if that gets changed.
Thank you. This is a nice, helpful, handy little thing.
Beverly did a lot of work on this because she had a lot of the information because of the grant. She wrote the grants. So
Nice.
we thought this would be good.
Great. All right, so we're good on our public hearing. Okay, so we have 2 minutes before our 6:45 appointment with Chief Hennessy, although I see that he's here, so I don't know if you mind coming up 1 minute early now. Okay.
You guys aren't sick of me, huh?
Never.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
So, so I just wanted to go over some stuff. And last time we kind of spoke, you guys were interested in some different incentives that we might be able to give the officers. Again, retention's huge. I think we've done a good job so far. My worry is that, like I said, that we have surrounding towns looking to recruit some of our guys and trying to make that not happen. Besides making a couple nasty phone calls, I need something to back that up with. Give me my email. So I did email Neil, and then I went back and found that the email didn't go through. It was in my
I
draft
didn't
box.
receive it.
So, sorry about that, Neil. So some of the incentives that we came up with, one is a shift differential. Which a couple of towns do, including Henniker. And it goes anywhere from about $1.50 to $3, and most of them are the midnight officer will get the shift differential. Merrimack County, because they're just pretty much Monday through Friday, they have a shift differential for the weekends as well. They also have educational stipend, which goes anywhere from about $500 to $3,000 a year. $500 for associates, about $1,000 for bachelors, and $1,500 to $2,000 for having your master's degree. Then there is just a general stipend that you can give the officers, depending on how much you can do. The one thing that I would really like to do is the 3 officers that are the least paid. I would like to at least try to give them $2 raise prior to their merit raise as well. I could probably absorb that with some of my part-time officer budget. We're supposed to have 2. We only have 1 at this point. So I think I could probably absorb the $2 raise in my budget for the part-time. Some figures from surrounding towns. So from
We might be better to put that, to get that in writing. I think it's
Okay.
going to be hard for you to read.
I can give you all those figures afterwards, help you guys make the decision. Hooksett and Hanover have a fitness incentive, which is $400 for Hooksett and 3% annually for Hanover. Those are pretty much the big ones. Shift differential, educational, and fitness incentives.
What is a fitness incentive?
So we have to take a PT test every 3 years to maintain our certification. It consists of a mile and a half run, push-ups and sit-ups. And so that's every 3 years. If the officer maintains it and takes the test every year, so it kind of goes above and beyond, they give them that extra 3%. So if you fail the test, you have, I believe, a year probation, and then if you fail it again, they take your certification from you. So.
Further, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
I just didn't know if you particularly liked any of these beyond other, more than the others as being, you think being effective to keep who we already have on staff.
The shift differential is probably the biggest one because I feel like a lot of the departments have that. But I feel like just overall pay in itself is probably going to be the best. Like I said, and Neil said, I can give you the figures of they did a pay study the end of last year, and I mean it has probably over 60 towns. I did put together just the surrounding towns like Bow, Henniker, what they're offering and the difference between what they're offering and what our officers are making, so I can get that to you. But yeah, to answer your question, shift differential will probably be the biggest one.
And you mentioned that if we were going to do the raise, I think you said $2 an hour, that you thought that could be absorbed by the part-time budget. What's the cost implication of the shift differential? Would that also potentially be absorbed by part-time budget?
It could. It would be, I believe it's around 4,000 for the whole department, roughly. And then it's difficult to know what officer is going to be on what shift, and so
Sure.
The percentage.
And does that include retirement? Because that's a 33%.
Yes, I got a matrix.
I know why I'd like to figure it all out to see.
I have a matrix. See if it'll come up, which you probably won't. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I have a matrix that includes Medicare, retirement, FICA. So all that, I can just input the numbers and it'll come up with all of that. So. And then the cost for the lowest 3 officers for a $2 raise for each one was about $17,000.
Is that just for is that a full fiscal year or?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, the way I look at it is $17,000, you know, compared to the cost of hiring a brand new officer, if we lose one of our guys. Roughly conservatively about $100,000 when you take into account everything. And just again, the knowledge that those officers have after 3 or 4 years of being here. You know, we put a lot of officers through a lot of training this past year. One, as a retention piece, you know, Officer Molnar, I believe, took 3 2-week classes to become certified as an accident reconstructionist. So for 6 weeks, he was in training, you know. That'd be a huge loss if we were to lose him just based on that knowledge alone, you know.
Yeah.
And then just the knowledge that he gains with the town, knowing the roads, knowing the people, you know. It's that you can't put a dollar amount to that really, you know, so.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, well, you'll put stuff in writing and send it to Neil for us to look at.
yep, I can
Okay.
put everything that I have, I can put it in a memo and get it to you guys and with, you know, totals and stuff like that and
Yeah.
Okay,
That'd be great.
all that stuff and hopefully help you make a decision.
we appreciate you continuing to work on this. We know it's super important, so.
It is, and I appreciate you guys listening and, you know, if you do have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to let me know and if I can clarify anything or if there's anything specific that you're looking for, you know, let me know so I can put it in there.
Okay,
Actually, Chief, thank you for this. And when you're putting the memo together, you also, you had mentioned that, well, maybe there's a no need for another part-time, and so you'd save that, you know, explain that in the memo.
Sure.
So there would be savings.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay. So that is, we are complete with our public appointments. So now we have
Yeah,
old
the
business.
next one is a non-public, but that can be after you finish
Yeah,
everything else.
okay,
Because
we still have.
Rob and
6
Ron
minutes.
seem like they're enjoying the meeting, so.
So now under old business, we have finalized the town meeting warrant.
Yes, so you have the warrant, a couple of things, couple of follow-ups. Article 13, the one you have, I heard back from town council and he recommended changing this one. This is the rental of the Bates building. To simply say to authorize the select board to lease all or a portion of the Bates building for a period up to 5 years without further vote or ratification of the town. He felt like the wording that we had, which talked about below market rate and upon such terms and conditions was confusing and that you should change it, so.
But if this is voted no, we wouldn't be able to rent it.
For more than a year at a time.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
This wouldn't get at our sort of purpose.
And that's what's, yeah. So if you want to stay with the original language.
Personally prefer to keep the original language because that's why I thought we were putting it on the warrant, was primarily to get feedback from the public.
Neil, could you read the original language?
Sure. To see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to lease all or a portion of the Bates building for a period of up to 5 years as determined by the select board, and to lease the building at a rate that is in the best interest of the town, which may be at a lower than market rate upon such terms and conditions as the select board deemed to be in the best interest of the town.
Under the new language, would there be an issue if the select board went to rent it at below market price for a multi-year period?
No. I don't think so. Unless
I-
our council said otherwise.
I think that's up to you. I think it leaves it totally in the board's hand.
I
They
guess,
both do.
I mean, the way I was looking at it was if we had the more explicit language in there, I think it would give us, I'd say more firm direction about how to lease the building. The way that it's been revised, where it doesn't say anything about that, you know, a different board could choose to interpret that differently.
Well, although the language in the old one is permissive, it's just saying it could be lower than market rate. It's not exactly giving direction.
But I feel like we have this struggle with how to set that annually. And so my sense of the whole idea of this was to get feedback from the town about if they're willing to, you know, basically subsidize occupants of that building at a lower rate.
Where did the 5-year time frame come from?
That's kind of the highest you can go, I believe.
In state statute, yeah.
And right now we're set at 1.
We're just going year to year because we
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Because we were not allowed to sell the building.
Right.
And then it was sitting empty for a while.
No, I get that part. I think that like the main problem to me is that there wasn't really a clear intended use of the building other than that we have it and we can't sell it. And right now we're in the position where every single year we have a tenant that seems to be a really good fit for the building, but we don't really know what market rate is, and we don't really want to go out and try to find out with disturbing that tenant. So it's kind of more about the discussion about what's going to happen when we describe the problem. So I think that
Right.
to me, it's more about how we present the problem than the actual vote itself. It's more about having the conversation with the entire town than it is about what the vote is. So to me, I'm kind of okay with any language on the warrant because as long as we present it and the discussion is, and we get what we need out of the discussion. Because, sorry.
Go ahead.
That was it.
I was just gonna say, I mean, yes, but I think we all know what the conversation is going to be because we have dealt with this. I think if you're thinking of people sitting in our shoes in 10 years, they may not look at the detailed minutes of the discussion. They'll look at what was on the warrant and what was voted by the voters. And so having it be very clear that the voters either said, yes, that's a great idea, or no, we don't think it's a good idea, I think is a much more sort of telling indication about where the town is at.
No, I get that.
I regularly use the word transparency when I'm talking about budget things, and I think here the more transparent is the older language.
Is that a consensus?
Yeah.
Okay, so that we'll put that back to the old language. There were 2 pieces of land we discussed last time, and you asked me to talk to the Conservation Commission, and I talked to Ron. The first is the Clement Hill piece that is at the corner of Pine and Clement. And they were fine with that being sold to the abutter because it is basically surrounded by that or one of the abutters. The second piece was the Bassett Mill. If you remember, right across from Bassett Mill, there's a Class 6 road, even though there's trees growing up there. And that abuts the Army Corps of Engineer area. And the conservation wants to keep that for conservation purposes. So, and Ron can correct me or add information because he's here.
Yeah, the piece of Clement Hill Road, that was part of a very large subdivision plan that the Herritz had presented. And there was kind of a little bit of a bog on that one particular lot, so we kind of swapped that lot for the change of use tax. And it, it was gonna have road frontage and could have access, while that subdivision never in that area was never went through, no road access. It's in the middle of nowhere right now, so my recommendation was that,
it's a wetland, it is protected by a state and federal law, but if the town was to sell it, put a little more specific deed restriction in that. To kind of protect it, add a little additional protection. And then the piece off of Bassett Mill Road, although a lot of people consider the flood control, the Army Corps of Flood Control Area conservation land, it is flooded periodically, typically in the spring, when critters are just coming out of hibernation. And there's a lot of wildlife and plant mortality when that flood control goes up. So the Conservation Commission is kind of trying to pick up land around the edges of upland that doesn't flood, that would be protected, that when it does flood, the wildlife it does have some upland area to escape to, that isn't, occupied by houses and stuff like that. So that's why, prefer to keep that one. That's why it was really given as a gift to the town by Bob French for that reason.
So that was the information I needed to bring back. So this draft includes authorization to sell the Clement Hill, but not the Bassett Mill. So if you want to change that, you could do that. And other than that, you just need to vote on each one and assign whoever's going to be presenting.
Before we get to that, on Article 5, we talked about it, prior meeting, the last sentence of the write-up, forgiveness, it's not in an amount of up to 100,000, it was an amount of 100,000.
Amount.
So what do people think about Bassett Mill? I'm gonna add that in.
Wait, added in?
Didn't you just say we just have the Clement?
Right, Bassett Mill's the one they wanted to keep.
Keep, so we would not want to add it in.
Ah,
Unless we do want to.
Unless you do, you can add it. Certainly.
I'll say we leave it out.
Yeah,
Correct. It doesn't sound like it would have a lot of value if it's regularly flooded.
mhm.
That's what it sounded like.
No, that piece is, that's why we're trying to protect.
Oh, I misunderstood. Sorry.
Provide some upland habitat when the rest of the Army Corps area is flooded.
tax map has a land value at 170K.
Do we have to vote and assign tonight?
Yes,
Is Jeff still on?
no.
So Jeff wants to do them all.
Yeah. He's
I'll second that.
going to be assigned what we assign him, especially because then all of our votes are 4 or 3 or, not adding up to 5, they're adding up to 4, which is unfortunate.
Yes, just to circle back to the Bassett Mill Road one. I'm a little torn on what to do. I guess my inclination is to put it back on the warrant, just to give us the authority to sell it if that's what we feel like is the best option. But obviously wouldn't obligate us to do that. But I just feel sort of pressed for time, having to finalize this tonight and hearing about the sort of the position of the Conservation Commission.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but if that was the case, when we want to also do that with all property that we own, I mean, there's not really anything special about this lot other than there's someone who requested to purchase it.
No, but it would, I mean, because we don't have 4114A. No, we do, but not for.
To purchase, but not to sell.
Right, so we'd have to wait till the following year to sell it.
Right, but that's only, I mean, like, you can say the same thing about any other town property that someone gave an offer to buy. And so then you would just say, like, well, would we want to just do that for all our property. It's,
Tax deeded property you can sell. You do have that authority.
like, to me, if, in the absence of a person actually coming and saying, I want to purchase this land, I don't think we'd be discussing this.
That's probably true.
And if that's the case, unless there's like a good reason why we do want to sell it, I don't know if we should put it on the warrant.
That was given to the town with conservation in mind.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I would say like
It was a trade for other land. Right.
Oh, right.
He wanted a road discontinued and he said he would donate land according to the minutes.
which road
It's a road that
is now,
no longer exists because it was totally discontinued.
this particular parcel, it seemed like there's active reasons why we wouldn't want to sell it. And so in the
Right.
absence of someone saying they wanted to buy it, I don't think we would want to have the authority to sell it.
Well, so I guess, I mean, the one argument for selling it could be just to put it back on the tax rolls. Not saying that wins the day, but I mean,
And we just hear Conservation Commission does not want that.
We would, well, it's been voted on as a town forest, it's in the forest.
It's not.
Plan, but, well, again, with our goal of protecting land upland around the flood control area, we would strongly recommend not selling it.
Yeah. I'm kind of Thomas on this one, like if we don't think we're gonna sell it, then. Because then it just feels a little bit random.
Feasibly, if this was a parcel that Conservation Commission was interested in purchasing and someone else was, or interested in having, and someone else was selling it, Conservation Commission would be buying it, which means the town would essentially be buying it, and then we would just be like, it just seems. There doesn't seem much point other than that someone reached out to us about it.
yeah, I get it. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So. We going through this?
Vote on each one and assign a speaker.
And we have officially lost Jeff.
Yes, he's,
Okay.
Fortunate timing for him.
I think he missed it last year too, because I
Did,
think
I
it was.
think. All right, where are we starting here?
Three.
Yep, Article
Okay.
3.
Make a motion to recommend Article 3.
One second.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? Aye, that's 4-0.
Presentations at the same time.
Well, I think it makes sense for whoever's doing the Article 3 to do 4 and 5 as well. So, should we give this to?
That's cool.
Why don't we come back to
Yeah.
those ones? These ones seem pretty well prepared.
Yeah,
That's true.
And so maybe we kind of see how it shakes out and if everyone.
I know Neil just basically gifted
Yeah.
us a
Yeah.
beautiful presentation,
Right.
so, okay.
Wait, you need a motion though on
We
4.
need 4.
Article 4.
Move that we recommend Article 4.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
It's 4-0.
Move that we recommend Article 5.
Second.
Any discussion on 5? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
It's 4-0.
Move that,
Stephen, you could be the presenter since you made the motion.
I'm gonna stop moving. This whole thing up.
Anyway, I don't want to slow you down. Okay.
Move that we not recommend Article 6.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just say that we've had this petitioned numerous times in the past. And we can certainly have a discussion on the merits of it, but I, for one, not in favor of the town being SB2.
Yeah, and we're stuck with this awkward timing of we have to hold the SB2 public hearing at a certain
Which is
date,
next
which is
Tuesday.
But we have to vote on this tonight. So that is why we're in this sort of awkward position each
Yeah.
year on this. But I agree with Stephen. We will have the public hearing and we'll be hearing from a lot of people, but based on what I know and have been reading about lately, my position has not changed either. So I'll also be voting not to recommend this.
I'd follow along with that. I have many issues with SB2. I'm looking forward to the public hearing, but we've had this discussion almost every year now. And it I don't know what would be different to change my mind.
I don't see any need to add anything to the comments.
Okay, so Stephen, you made.
I made it a negative motion, which I don't think you're supposed to do.
Well, it is weird because we're
It
not.
is positive to not.
Oh, is
You're moving that we
Favor of not
not recommend
recommending.
it.
It is a little weird, I know.
Does everyone know what my motion is?
You're moving that we do not recommend
Yeah.
this Article 6.
Correct.
I will second that. All right, all those in favor of the motion to not recommend?
Aye.
Aye. It's 4-0. All right, operating budget. It's your time to shine,
Sure.
Ken.
Wait, we want to decide who's doing Article 6?
I think we'll come back
You wanna come
to
back to that one too?
signing,
Okay.
yeah.
Article 7, the operating budget, I'll move that we recommend approval.
Second.
Any discussion on the operating budget? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
And Article 8, I'll move, we recommend approval of the appropriation to capital reserve funds of $1,356,000.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
4-0.
Article 9, I move we recommend approval of the appropriation to expendable trust funds of $118,500.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Thomas, this
I'll make a
this is
motion.
your swan song.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 10.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 11.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will make a motion to recommend Article 12.
Second.
Any discussion on this? This is to rescind the green bags.
I feel like we had ample discussion.
We've had a lot of discussion. on
Get
this.
excited for more.
Yeah. So based on our prior discussions to date, I feel comfortable putting this on the warrant and recommending it.
Okay,
I'd move to recommend it.
Second.
10 seconds. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 4-0. Rental of the Bates Building.
And this will be with the original language.
Move that we recommend with the original language.
Second.
Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
4-0. And designating this Article 14. All right. Lot says town forest. Stephen, you've made the motion on almost everyone. So to mix it up, I'm going to move that we recommend this article.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Okay, and Article 15, authorization to sell land. I'll move this one as well. That we recommend.
Second.
Is it Stephen?
I don't want to have all the fun.
Go right ahead.
All right.
Okay, all those in
Missed this.
favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
it's 4-0.
I can do 16.
Okay,
I'll move that the board recommends Article 16 rescind select board authority to, sorry,
Does not
does not,
recommend.
I will move that the select board does not recommend Article 16 rescind select board authority to accept dedicated streets.
this is another like awkward.
Yeah.
Where the motion is to not recommend. Okay, so you moved. I will second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain because I think if I voted, it could be viewed as a conflict of interest because this is driven by North Shore Drive.
This has much broader ramifications
Yeah,
than North Shore Drive.
I mean, this isn't a referendum on North Shore Drive at all, really.
I would also note that I think the RSA reference should be 40-A. Not 674-40.
Check that.
I am not in favor. So I do not want to recommend this.
Right.
I think that if something has been before the planning board and it's gone through their review and they have approved it, that rather than requiring the developer to come to the annual meeting to have a road accepted, that it's appropriate for us to have the ability to do that.
Which we have since 1994, it
Right,
seems.
correct, yeah.
Okay, so you still want to abstain, Ken?
Yes.
Okay, so wait, you made the motion?
I made the motion.
I seconded. All right, all those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
with one abstention.
A good variety this year.
It is.
We're starting at 7:30
Huh?
PM. What time is it? What time is it?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
30.
I don't know why I said 7:30. Oh,
Is it because it's almost 7:30?
I hope it doesn't say that on here, does it?
Don't listen to Thomas, it's 6 o'clock. Do we need to assign tonight or we can, Do we-
You don't meet for a month,
okay, so.
so it would be helpful.
All right, so,
You could always change it after, but
um,
I'm happy to take 10 through 13.
I
In
mean,
addition to 17.
I will take 7, 8, and 9.
I'll do 6 and 16.
wait, so Ken's got the budget.
But you want to do 16?
Oh, are you going 16?
I would love to do 16.
You can have 16.
Great.
I want you to have a fun,
Great.
outgoing.
The only reason why I say this, because like over the years, I've done so much work on roads and I was on the planning board for a sizable portion of the time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Stephen, you did the SB2 petition.
Yeah, I'll do 6.
Okay, I got you there. I think Jeff should do the bonds.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think he should do 3, 4, and 5 together.
Did we just do
And
them
if
all?
he objects,
Let
then
it-
we can revisit that.
Hard at all.
Hold on, I think. Rental of abates to Article 13. Want me to?
tenants operating.
Someone said they
Did
were.
someone already say that?
I did say that. Well, I was on a roll through that.
You were, okay.
Happy to keep it going.
Do it, Thomas, this is your last, this is your
I
farewell
know.
tour.
Thomas is,
Take them all. Except for budget.
Thomas is 10 through 13.
I'm 10 through 13 and 16.
All right, I'll do 14 and 15.
Gonna wear a tux.
Okay. All right, we did it.
And, okay, 14 and 15?
I got 14 and 15.
Okay.
Jeff's probably going to be in North Dakota or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
He
true. He
not
wasn't there last
was
year.
he? Okay, well. One of us can step in. Wait, we did that, old business, new business, community power rate.
Okay, mostly just for informational at this point that the directors for Community Power Coalition New Hampshire voted to increase the rate as of early March from 8.9 cents to 9.7 cents per kWh because of an issue with a contractual agreement for power purchase fell through when they had to hedge at a higher price. And why I'm bringing it up is because the 9.7 cents is higher than Eversource or Unitil. And I think that one fashion or another, our residents, businesses should be apprised of this because it was, certainly partly sold as being less expensive to customers. So for a period of 5 months, it may not be. The Energy Committee is going to have a meeting, I'm hoping fairly soon to discuss, what kind of information and how it should be provided to our residents. I don't know if once the Energy Committee comes up with something, if it should come back to the select board or if the Energy Committee can just put it up on their portion of the town website and Sue Colbert's email or whatever.
Do you want to address, and you don't have to, how people can make elections for which rate they go with?
Actually, Dave Hemingway is here and he is on the board of CPCNH. I am not.
Yeah,
So he is actually better qualified than me if you would like him to answer.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Fine. Not a problem.
Numbers and websites tell you actually accurately. So what, do you just want that, or do you want more or specific questions on any of this, or?
I mean, I think, I guess, first and foremost, just the consumer's ability to, make that choice, I think would be helpful just to put on the record.
Yep. So the thing that I'll state, I'll give part of the statement that I made for Webster when I did this. Again, this is me. This is not speaking as CPCNH or the Community Power Coalition or Hopkinton Community Power. One of the things that you need to make sure as a resident that you are considering is what happens if you opt out. For Eversource, my understanding is you simply go to their rate on the next bill payment portion, and you're on their rate until you opt back in later. My understanding is that's not the case with Unitil. So even though Unitil's listed rate is lower, when you leave, you don't go to their 6-month flat rate, you go to their variable monthly rate, which is much higher in March. And so in theory, again, everybody do your own due diligence, but in theory, by waiting an extra month before you opted out, it's probably better to do it that way if you're Unitil and want to do so. The additional caution there is that most people will probably want to opt back in after this rate period because there are several things that are colluding together to create this. One in what was mentioned, and the other in that the utilities rates are actually artificially low for this rate period based on the PUC and other things. So with interest, that probably goes back next rate period to the utility default customers. So likely you'll want to go back. Unlike when community power gets launched in any community, the there is no provision to say, well, we're lower, we're going to opt you back in automatically now. So everyone has to do it themselves. That said, and now that that is out of the way, to make sure people understand they have to consider all of this and their own timing and ability to keep track of the timing. You can do the opt-ins at www.communitypowernh.gov, and it's probably /Hopkinton, but if not, if you just go to the main one and scroll down to find Hopkinton, you can do it there. Or by calling 1-866-603-7697, which is POWR for power. That number is also on the website there. And so that will take care of opting in, out, up to different tiers, et cetera. Sorry, I wasn't planning on giving any presentation here, but if you have any other questions,
I was
as
glad
a
to
board
see
member,
you.
I'm happy to. I didn't even know that was on your agenda. I just came to the lagoons.
It's Dave Tower.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay. So I guess back to my question, can the Energy Committee, once they develop some kind of communication for our citizens, release that, or would they, is the preference to come back with that statement to the select?
I think I'm comfortable with you guys putting it out without coming back.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Just send it for the website and we can put it on the
Yeah,
Facebook page and
yeah, I'm not sure when the Energy Committee will be meeting. It's I expect it'll be sooner than had been anticipated, because we hadn't been expecting to meet until March.
Next up, we have town administrator updates.
largely town meeting prep, budget prep. Hearings, we had the hearing tonight, we have a hearing, the budget hearing is on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. right here. The SB2 hearing is next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. here. And Kara's working hard and we're all getting our town report stuff done because that will go out the door at the beginning of next week. Fingers crossed.
Is it Tuesday? Is it just the SB2 hearing? Or are we going to do some board business as well? Do we know that yet?
That's if you want to. I think, are there 4 of you here?
I mean, I don't know.
Jeff might be here. I'll be here.
Oh, you will all be here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh,
Just curious.
then I'll throw board business on.
Okay.
Do you want to plan to meet at
Shouldn't have.
regular
5:30.
5:30 and at least sign things and the hearing at 6? That's great. I was thinking it was a small group.
Yeah, we had to move a lot of things around, but I think that was to make it so we.
You could all be here.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to public forum. Anyone would like to speak? You can raise your hand online or come to the mic here.
Lee Libby, I'm a butter of, the Bassett Mills property. You guys have had that for 30 years. I'm the one that requested the sale of it. Like I said, I'm a butter. I would move to merge the lot, to my property. And, I just would be curious to know what exact, study you guys have had that there are wildlife that migrates to that land. It is only 10 acres, not even, or just about 10 acres. It's a very small parcel, and there is a buffer zone between the water and that parcel as well.
I forget the footage, but I'm sure we could find out. It's very clearly marked in there. We've done a lot of walking back there and seen it. I'm just, I would really like to see some sort of more information on what you guys are arguing for. And the other argument would be the description of the class 6 road. I'm a contractor. I've done a lot of work in this town. I would not call it a class 6 road. That is not even a walking path. Eversource even put a pole with 3-phase power on it and multiple data lines right in the middle. So if we're going to think that that's something that's crossable, it absolutely is not. It's not even accessible. There's a stream that actually goes through the back of through my property and in the back of through my property and then onto that parcel and then onto the government's land as well. So I don't it's not crossable like it depicts in the tax maps. And I'd really like to see some sort of information or argument on what exact species and organisms and even the flowage that you guys are talking about. Just more information.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming out tonight and your engagement on the bonds. Appreciate everyone tuning in. And we do have, does anyone have anything for other? No other. We do have 3 non-publics, so we will be doing those non-publics and then will not be conducting any other business. We will adjourn. So I just want to say thank you again for coming in to talk to us about
Thank you.
the pump situation. Appreciate that. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. We make a motion
To go into several non-public sessions, one under 2D acquisition of land, another under 2E for legal advice, and the last one under A to discuss personnel.
Then another
Admin
for reputation.
Oh, thank you. And the last one for reputation under C.
Second.
Okay. All right, Stephen.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Yes. Tom.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh.
Just